here we go. What's up, gang? What is up? Let me swap over. There it is. We got green in the background. Hope you guys are liking the Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne soundtrack that we got blaring now. So, let me bring that down a little bit more just to be sure. All right. So yes, it is October, otherwise known as Orktober. This is actually the first year I've ever heard of that, but it sounds awesome. And I'm a big fan of Warcraft. I'm also a big fan of Warhammer. Surprise, surprise, having worked on it and everything. But there's a big difference. There are orcs with a C, and those belong to the kind of the Warcraft side of things, and I believe the Tolkien side of things as well. And then there's an orc with a K, which is Warhammer. So the design sensibilities are fairly similar. They are a little bit different. Excuse me. I will say that I think I'm a bit more of a fan of the Warcraft orcs. I love the soccer hooligan style shenanigans of the WoW, for the Warhammer orcs, of course. But I have a soft spot especially for like Thrall, and maybe my favorite character in all of Warcraft is Duratan, who is just a baller. Basically, that's Thrall's dad. For those that aren't into the lore as nerdily as I am, Duratan is Thrall's dad, but Duratan is fantastic. One of my favorite characters in all of fantasy, really, which is interesting. Big fan of his. But we're going to do another orc portrait. We did one orc portrait yesterday. Actually, I think I worked kind of just one day on it. And it really took off. So what's crazy now is I'm on like 5 or 6 social medias, right? As we all are. But from what I find is normally what gets popular on one website like Blue Sky won't be popular on Kara or Threads or Twitter or X or whatever they call it, or Facebook, or like each individual site has its own kind of personality. But it's weird, the orc portrait that I did, which I like, it was fun. I didn't really, I didn't stress about it. I just made it. Got a lot of traction on every single one of them, and that never happens. So I find that interesting. I wanted to make a little bit more of a dramatic one today, more of a Caravaggio style, painterly, and we're pretty good way in. I basically now have to render. So we'll kick over there. I did a majority of this in Rebel. I recorded the Rebel time lapse, and I'm going to send over to Escape Motions, see if they want to do anything with it. But it will also be part of the next YouTube video. And then we're going to have this part too, that we just kind of paint. And I have some references up, so I'm going to show you what I have on my references here. That way when I drag it over to this monitor and I keep like looking over, we're really going to be looking at stuff like hairline, the way that the jaws are. So there's a very specific muscle makeup and structural makeup to the face, especially for Warcraft orcs, that we're going to be looking at. So let me kick on over there, and boom. There we go. So here's what we have right now. So you see dark and moody, slice of light, everything we know and love, right? But this is also the references. So let me move my mic. Like so. And then we can talk a little bit about these references, right? So really when I think of Warcraft, I think of the Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos box art. Like the box art is the thing, right? And you can see a lot of what my painting is right now is basically Thrall. This is Duratan right here. Big fan of his. Also, this is Peng Ye. his painting of Duratan, which is one of the sickest paintings I've ever seen in my life. Like, if you zoom way out, it looks pretty perfect. But if you zoom in, you can see that he just used like low transparency hard round brush for a vast majority of this. He did do some texture brushes here. This is a low res version of it, but it's a freaking amazing piece, right? But you'll notice there's a lot of thematic consistency between the orcs, the way they're built, like the facial structure is built. They have like the maw, the big teeth, a lot of them have that kind of like bull ring nose, you know? And like here's a thrall picture, so you can see kind of where we got in like kind of the high hairline, big ears, some piercings on the ears sometimes, not every time. And like here's Duratan from the Lords of War, which is a series I love, love, love. It's a motion comic, and I think it's the coolest thing in the world. But yeah, this is basically what we're looking at. Just getting the grumpy orc look, right? This one's more of a profile shot, but I like the rendering on this. It's kind of old school, you see, but I mean, because this is Orcs and Humans, the first Warcraft. I think this is old Samwise art right here, which is just sick. Super cool. But yeah, that's kind of what I have as reference. Really, it's to get how the cheeks protrude, the kind of bushy eyebrows. Is painting an orc considered fan art? Kinda, sorta. I mean, you can monetize it for sure, because I mean, it really belongs to Tolkien, right? Tolkien like invented it. I think Tolkien literally invented it. I think he took it from other folklore, but I think the whole idea of an orc in the way that we think about it was invented by Tolkien. And then, you know, Tolkien invented everything, so then it kind of spread out. Yeah, but you can monetize it for sure, as long as it's like generic orc. You'll probably be okay. But if you start getting into, and I mean, really, you can, from what I've seen, you can sell fan art on like print shops and stuff, and there's not a lot that is going to be done. I don't know. I just never quite feel okay about selling fan art. Like, I won't make a picture of Batman and then sell it. You know what I mean? But if I'm at a convention and, you know, I have a table and somebody pays me $30 for a sketch and they request Batman, then I'll, you know what I mean? Like, then it's a client. They're basically paying me for the service of drawing, and it's up to the client what I draw. Does that make sense? Where I'm not in control of all of that. But since we have kind of generic orc here, it should be fine. I can keep kind of the colors. You can kind of see how I did this. I brought in kind of that warm, because I like this warm hit right here. This is a little bit more cartoony than I want to go. I wanted to see if I could make this one very thick paint. And it worked pretty well. This was in Rebel. I'll show you the layers here momentarily. But yeah, I like the vibe. The vibe started working pretty well in Values, because I was able to hit this like really harsh light almost immediately. And I was like, oh, that works really well. So that's kind of what we're going for. But yeah, you can just see the generic, even though these are the same character. I mean, that's Thrall in the new expansion. That's Thrall as of like Burning Crusade, maybe. This is generic orc, like a grunt. Generic orc, like a grunt. But you can see how all of them have the big tusk teeth, the smaller nose with the bull ring, angry eyebrows, furrowed, bushy eyebrows. So it's general enough that you can kind of get away with it. Let's move this over here. Let's talk a little bit about what we got right here. So, what I did... Basically, I brought in the sketch. Now, the sketch transferred over kind of weird from Rebel. It looks quite a bit messier in Rebel, but I guess because I saved it out as like a... Oh, it's at 34% opacity. Let me bring this up. There we go. So that's sort of what the sketch looks like. Really kind of gumpy, but, you know, I just needed shapes. That's all I needed. And then I went in and I did the values. And this is where the values I brought in. I liked the fact that the light was only hitting like one part and the rest of it kind of fell off. And it was a decent way. I figured out this could be a decent way to study, because normally my art theory brain would always think that like my saturated, really luscious color lived in the shadows, and maybe even the midtones, right? But what I'm going to try for this one is to have that really saturated, really vibrant colors only in the light. Like maybe in the lighter midtones as well. But then whenever it falls off, everything gets a little more desaturated. I want to see how that works. So you can see I had the values here and that worked okay. Like I got excited enough at this point. I was like, okay, I can move to the next step. And then put in the color wash, and you can kind of see I put in the heavy saturated reds and stuff, and then those bright like yellow, greeny, you know, looks. And I think it worked okay. Like whenever I zoomed out, I was like, okay, I can work with this. Like it's doable, right? And then whenever I came in and did a lot of the brushwork stuff, I basically just color picked, and then I would up some of the vibrancy. So then that is what that became. So it got a little messier, right? You can actually see the canvas and the brush strokes and stuff. So it did get messier, a lot of wet blendy brushes, a lot of this type of stuff, a lot of bristle hair. Same thing here, bristle hair stuff. But yeah, the mixes here started getting pretty cool. And especially with kind of that red, like the orangey stuff, mixing with that yellow, starting to make it a green, kind of a muddier color. But I thought that would be fun to kind of embrace, is the muddy color, to keep it looking as traditional as possible. So then that was the setup. I put it all in a folder, and then I just merged the layers together. But before I did, I lowered the sketch layer to like 30% opacity. And so this is what we're at right now. And like, I can see it. I can see where the painting needs to go. And basically, I'm going to render the hell out of this eye coming up here, this cheek, the nose, the ring, and then I'm going to slightly render some more of this. Basically, the biggest render area is going to be where the light is. That makes sense, right? Because we have to see what we have to see. But then everything else is going to stay fairly loose. Like literally, I think stuff down here, I may not even touch. I may get rid of the white, because the white's kind of throwing me off. Unless I want to make like embers, or like ashy embers or something. We'll see. But I might just get rid of this to make sure that we know what the focal point is, and it's going to be this eye ridge, you know, and the eyeball and all that stuff. I'm sorry, I have all my drinks way over here. That way I don't like knock anything over. I'm going to grab kind of my main render brushes. We're just going to get to work. But yeah, it's funny how popular that first orc portrait got. Like, I had no clue. I think it's my most popular piece of the year so far, which is funny. Colin, what's up, my friend? So yeah, that John Singer Sargent book I linked you in the Discord. It's a super good one. It talks about his life and upbringing and stuff, and then it's a long book. It's a few hundred pages. I want to say it's almost like 300 pages. It's a big old coffee table book. So the first main thing that we're going to do is kind of get rid of the lines here. See, I think where this is really going to start shining is like whenever I come in here and get rid of some of these lines, but then keep some of like the darker nuances. I think some of that's going to really pay off. This type of thing. And then I could even get like pure white, even though I usually say that's a no-no. We come in here and do something like that. And then also like right on that eyebrow ridge where it catches the most light. Do something like that. And like we can also give them some like battle scars if we wanted to. We don't have to, but something cool to think about at least. And so the fun thing about this is going to be the balancing act of how rendered do you get in the rendered areas versus how kind of messy and sloppy do you keep the rest of it. The nice thing is, since it's an orc, people are pretty forgiving on if you don't render it all the way and it looks aggressive, you know, like aggressive brushwork and stuff. It makes sense thematically, right? Which is always a benefit. They do. Oh, it's more of a kind of cupped. There we go. And we can get this one. It's funny how well that little dot in the eye, that little specular highlight, how much heavy lifting that does. Yeah, but this is basically how I did the other one. It's funny, I recorded the process, the whole process for that first one, and then I recorded all of the Rebel parts with the Rebel time-lapse for this one. What's the thing looks like? Yes. So it's funny, that's a very real mental thing. That's a very real thing. That actually helped whenever I was taking public speaking class. I used to be kind of nervous, like speaking in front of people or like speaking in front of cameras. And then my instructor said something, and it like took all of the weight off of it forever. And then I was able to speak in front of like big crowds and small crowds and do stuff like this and like not worry at all. And they said the audience doesn't have the script. They don't have it. They have no idea what it's supposed to be, you know. They have no idea what what your lines are and when you're supposed to come in, and or what your hypothesis statement. They don't know any of it. It's all brand new to them. So don't, like, if you flub a line, don't be like, oh guys, I'm so sorry, I messed up the line, because then you're drawing attention to it, And I think art is very much the same way, because it's like, if something didn't quite turn out the way I wanted, either I will go back and fix it, or I'll just say I meant to do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's kind of helpful, Like, if you have confidence in what you're doing, all of it's correct. And especially with art has that beautiful thing that everybody knows and everybody repeats and all that stuff. And they say art is subjective, which it is. Everyone has different taste, But I think the further you get in your art career, or like illustration, or kind of whatever you're on, whatever your thing is, I actually think it becomes more true and less true. Because I think you can see people's intent a little more whenever you have a little higher skill ceiling. And then you can also see ways that they could have maybe made it more effectively. Not that they could have made it quote unquote better or worse, because that is subjective. That's all up to the eye of the beholder, right? But you do get a little more kind of nuance, I guess, in the way you can look at things. And it's super helpful. Because it kind of does take the pressure off. Because, anything you make is going to look okay. It's going to look fine. But really, how is it going to really start to pop? And I think that's a big thing. Honeybee, thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate you very much. Just gonna add some random details there. See, my thing is, I want to keep it painterly, but I need to render some of it. But I don't want to get too bogged down in the render, because I think that'll take a lot of the energy out of it. So this is a nice kind of balancing act, and it's something I need to practice anyway. It's like, how much is too much, and like, we can add some little like orc freckles there, just to have something to look at, But yeah, I think there's something very valuable about learning kind of how to wrangle this stuff in, and how to balance that painterly versus rendered outlook. This can actually come in. Yeah, that's cool. That actually looks about right. Yeah, that looks like metal. Sure, I kind of lucked out. Maybe I need to get that high highlight up. Make this a little more circular there. Here we go. Make it really kind of look like it's set into... There we go. The nostril. Give it that nice little... cast shadow from this nostril coming in, because if the light's coming from this direction down, this nostril's so big that it's gonna block that hoop a little bit. So, it's funny, today there was the Warhammer preview day, and they showed off a whole bunch of stuff. They showed off a new edition of Warhammer Underworlds, which is a really cool like board game. I have quite a few of them in my collection. I think I have like 3 or 4 of the box set things of it. But something bummed me out about it today. They showed it off and they did the new trailers and all that stuff. They changed the art on the cards. So the way it works, it's a board game and you have your minis and stuff, but you also have cards like a Magic the Gathering style thing where you play abilities and those abilities have a cost and you roll dice and you see if you afford it and all that stuff. Well, normally they would have like card illustrations, like they would have someone on their art team or freelancers or whatever make paintings, you know, and it would be just the same thing as like big hero shots and stuff, like really cool stuff. And I always wanted to be a part of that team because I thought that would be super fun and super cool. Have your card art be there on the board game, like, oh, so much fun. And I even applied 2 years ago to be on that team because I was like, I'd love to do it, man. I've done card art before, I've done board games before, I'm a good fit, I've done Warhammer before, let's do it. And I never heard back. Well, I think today I learned why is because they're getting rid of all the hand-painted art on the cards, and instead they're replacing it with pictures of the models. And they've like posed the models and put like special effects and fire and stuff behind them, which is, you know, fine. And I mean, Warhammer at the end of the day only exists to sell models. That's the whole, everything else they do is specifically made to sell models. That's it. They sell plastic. They are a plastic selling company. They have Black Library, they have all these other things, they have the role-playing games, they have all this stuff. All of that is to feed into the machine to make models. So I understand that they're making the models kind of the thing, right? But I was so upset. I was like, come on, man. Yeah, I mean, yes, it is way better than AI, thank God. I think they would have gotten so much blowback if they used AI. Because you have to think, like, that is the place, Games Workshop is the place that artists like, you know, Carl Kapinski and John Blanche and Adrian Smith and Lewis Jones and, I mean, just these unbelievably good artists. That's the house they built. So if Games Workshop was dumb enough to be like, oh, you know, the most famous fantasy artists on the planet, we're going to replace them all with a... That would not be a good look. Not be a good look. But it was funny, even in the live stream today, there were so many people that were upset about the Warhammer Underworld's card art stuff. They're like, yeah, the models look great, but come on, man, like, give us cool card art, you know? That's cool. Oh, so what I just did, you know how I talked about how cool specular highlights are? So here's a trick that I learned relatively recently. Notice how I'm keeping everything over here definitely in shadow. It is very, very, very dark, right? I can add a specular highlight, which is going to be lighter than what's around it. It's all relative value, right? But it's still way darker than this highlight that's in the light. Cool art you see in the game shows. Or like representation. That's true. You a fan of Lord of the Rings? Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, like, I agree with that. I think Well, and it's funny, working on Warhammer stuff, the art directors send you models, or like, not like physically ship you models, but like send you drafts and schematics of models. And they're like, okay, when you do this painting, make sure that you include this type of grenade, this type of servo skull, this type of, because they're planning on selling models. So like when they give you the art brief, they're like, make sure make sure they're wearing this kind of jacket, make sure they have this kind of pauldron, make sure they have this kind of armor, you know, which is handy. I will say that's very nice. It's very nice when they send it and they're like, okay, make sure they're wearing this. And I'm like, okay, great. Now I don't have to think about it. I don't have to create it from my imagination. You know what I mean? Like, and then I know it's going to get approved because it's already been approved. Yeah, it's way easier to work that way. Thank you so much, honey. Thank you for the follow, Honeybee, by the way. I don't know if you're here when I said it earlier. So yeah, with this one, I really wanted to, where we're at right now. I really wanted to play with the whole light dark thing. A little slice of light coming in. So that might be a little too rendered for what I want. And I'm going to use the nice painterly brushes here momentarily, but I got to render out some of this stuff first. Maybe here. This one, yeah, I should probably darken that maw right here. Yeah, give it more of a angle here. There we go. And see what I will do, I will keep the stuff in the shadow pretty painterly. I will fix the silhouette, maybe. But I'll keep it fairly soft, comparative to the stuff in the light, you know. That up a little bit. There we go. What is this piece for? This is just a personal piece. This is, you know how there's like Inktober happening and you know, there's like May Sketch a Day and stuff. Well, I guess somebody came up with a genius idea of Orktober, and it made me laugh. So yesterday I did an orc portrait, and it got real popular, which is cool. So I was like, we'll do another one. We'll do one on stream. That way people can see one being made. And I recorded the one I did yesterday for my YouTube channel. So here is where, actually I'm going to get rid of this line. That is a weird tangent and I don't like it. Also this I don't like. So we're going to get rid of that as well. I will bring in more eyebrow lines. So this is going to be the real test of my kind of classical art knowledge. this up here. Let me grab a better... Let me grab this one. Kind of give that texture a little bit. Let me grab that. That, and I do want to bring this a little bit lighter in the hair, but I also don't want to go over and have the light too light in the hair, because remember, I want this area to be my focal point. Everything else is whatever. Like just kind of mess that up, almost kind of block it out, you know. Oh, good. I'm glad it's helpful. So yeah, this is the Warcraft 3 soundtrack, which is a banger. It's a classic. So yeah, we're just gonna paint a little bit, do some good vibing, you know. Make something that hopefully looks kind of cool and retains a little bit of painterly brushwork, but reads pretty well. That's been my main thing lately over the past few months, especially on my like YouTube channel and stuff. All my videos have been about the balance of painterly art versus like comic style stuff, and kind of where do I fit in. And so it's fun to be able to do stuff like this where it's just relaxing and it's not stressful. It's not for a client. It's not, you know, there's no deadline. Books or stories of these characters? I don't, but that is the next thing on the agenda. Is I have a fantasy kind of world building book I'm planning, and then there's also a sci-fi graphic novel deal that I'm working out, and I'm writing the script for it right now. I already have the story idea planned out, but I have to write the script and then rough draft in the comic pages. Like, it's a big undertaking, but it's a lot of fun. Because right now I have 2 commission jobs that I'm working on, but I just wrapped up Percy Jackson, so I get kind of a nice breather to where I can actually dedicate time to maybe work on my own stuff. It's just I need to decide what that stuff is. And that's always the, you know, that's always the fun. So I did go to art school. I went to art school from 2004, the fall of 2004, until 2007. I went to, we call it Atelier, but I went to Oklahoma City University. Had a lot of fun. And then I was a dummy and dropped out. And then didn't do art for like 12, 13 years after that. Didn't do anything. I just did other like corporate jobs and sales jobs and stuff. And then Went to college, got 2 associate's degrees, worked at the college that I graduated from, did technology stuff, did corporate sales, did all that stuff, and then decided for my third career to come back to art. So that's what we're doing now, and it's working pretty good. I've been a pro artist for, let's see, 2000, so over 4 years, not quite 5 years. I think it'll be 5 years in December. Because my first gig was, December 2019 for Adidas. And then after that, it was Warhammer. And then it was off to the races, man. Then it was a whole bunch of stuff. So, if you guys are wondering why I'm looking over at the other monitor, I have 3 monitors set up, but I have a collection of references that I'm looking at of orc stuff from Warcraft. I just always liked their designs, so I'm kind of looking at how these other artists, and like from the Warcraft movie and from the game. Other artwork, official artwork from Blizzard, kind of how they are doing stuff like the structure of the maw area right here and how the teeth come up, but also like how deep do the cheekbones go? Like how high are the cheekbones? How sunken in are the eyes? The hairline, like what's that doing? So like that's what I keep looking back over, and to read chat, of course. What's up, Crow? Good to see you, brother. I dropped out of college because I was not ready for college. I would oversleep. I thought the lessons weren't doing anything, even though they were. I wasn't like mentally ready. And my major was illustration and graphic design, and my minor was film directing, which is cool. And I still have all my film directing books and all that stuff. Got to help make indie movies and all that. It was a lot of fun. But I had this like holier than thou attitude. I was like, I don't want to make other people's movies. Brr, 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 brr. Whenever you're 23 and you think you know everything, I was just not mentally ready for it. But now, whenever I went back to school, now I have 3 kids, got 4.0 and 2 associate's degrees, and you get ready for it real quick once life makes you, and the discipline I have now, I paint every single day. I'm working, emailing, like, I wouldn't change it for anything though. And surprisingly enough, when you do something all day, every day, you get pretty good at it. Like, that's how that works. Here's the thing. I think John Singer Sargent would have loved certain aspects of digital art. I think he would have loved the fact that he would have something like a Google Drive that he could take a picture and put it online and it kept it, so he didn't have to keep the documentation. And also, he wouldn't have to wrangle all the kids or all the models or all that stuff over and over and over and over again. Because that's what he did. He would take his sketchbooks out there and, like, on paintings like Carnation Lily Lily Rose, it's probably one of his most popular paintings, but on that painting, he went out with his nieces. This is who I think they are. I think those are his nieces in the painting. And they just wouldn't calm down. He went out there like 7 times with them. I was like, guys, please just... That story's actually in the book that I recommended you, Colin. It's funny to read about it, but like, he would have loved it. He would have loved the fact that, oh, I can archive my stuff and I have PureRef open, and I have all this, like, oh, cool. But I do think a lot of the classical artists, like your Rembrandts and stuff like that. I think they really would have used whatever their client wanted them to. I mean, that's what they did back then. So, you know, I see that not changing too much. Independent authors looking for illustrators. Ooh, good call. Like a good website. So I would recommend, if you go to artstation.com, I would say ArtStation is still probably the biggest hub of artists that are currently working in a variety of industries, like illustration, video games, you know, concept art, key art, marketing art. A lot of professionals put their portfolio up there. Now, I will say, because of that pesky old thing called AI, a lot of people left ArtStation. Now, I still get a lot of my jobs from ArtStation, so I know for a fact, one, there's still professional artists on there, because I'm still on there. But number two, art directors are on there. People hiring for artists are still going to ArtStation. So it's probably the best place right now. But I would say maybe even your favorite social media. If you have a favorite, just kind of hang out around there, and especially if maybe one of your friends in your author circle, if they got an illustrator, ask them who they worked with and if they did it through like an agency, or because there's so many different ways to get in touch with people now. I mean, like mine, I have contact forms on my website and stuff, but really I still get a lot of my work through email where they say, hey man, I like your Instagram. Would you like to work on blah, blah, blah? Like whenever I worked on Star Wars, they saw my ArtStation portfolio and they liked it. I did a piece of Boba Fett. And so they hired me to paint Boba Fett for the board game, which is cool. How to use Twitch and Discord. Yeah. Yeah, it's a different, yeah, there's so many different artists and they do so many different things, which is good and bad, right? Because you can go to a lot of different websites and find people. What I've found is usually the cream rises to the top more often than not. So no matter what kind of method you're thinking about using, you're probably going to find some good people, you know. And I would just say, and it's hard to know ahead of time, but I would just say go for somebody that you think is going to be very good at communication. Because I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the number one thing, and this goes to all the artists out in the audience right now, the number one thing you need to work on as an artist working with clients is your communication skills. Or I know them as soft skills. I know I've said it before, and I will definitely say it again. Being hired as an artist is not about being the best artist. It's never about being the best artist. Because if that was true, only like 5 people on Earth would ever get a job. Do you know what I mean? Like, the secret to getting hired as an artist is to be the least risky option. The least risky option. And what that means is you have to have the skill. You have to be able to deliver. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, there can be no question on how like talented you are or skilled or whatever you are at the actual painting side of it. But you need to communicate well. You need to work well with others. You need to be on time, preferably early. You need to give options. You need to be the least risky option in a team environment and working one-on-one. That's actually like my favorite part is working with people. And I like that infectious sort of like starting a working relationship with someone and being like, oh, this sounds cool, can we try this? Oh yeah, let's look at that. And then you start like, you become a fan of each other's work on the same common goal. So then the work gets better. And that's been kind of my calling card. You know what I mean? Like, I guarantee you, I have been like third or fourth on a list somewhere of artists, but because of maybe the way I emailed or corresponded or like gave options or like, worked with the people instead of being a diva of some sort, I guarantee you that got me repeat business. Guaranteed. Because someone's going to way rather go to somebody that they can trust is not going to waste their time, it's going to be easy to work with, can take criticism, or, can actually hold their ground and be like, no, I know your idea is this, but in my experience, I tried this with this client and it didn't quite work, so let's think of something else. Like, I've worked with some teams as a consultant. They liked my art well enough, but they liked somebody else's art better. But then they came to me after they hired the other person, and they were like, can we just have like a 3 or 4 Zoom calls with you and figure this out? And I'm like, yeah, man. And then like, I kind of like art directed stuff, I will say consultant fee is way higher than just hiring me in the first place, but they stood their ground, and the product was better for it. I think they picked the right artist, But yeah, it can't be like a sour grapes thing. It can't be they picked so-and-so over me. Grr. Like, no. World's too small for any of that crap. You see your life going a good direction. Hope you're happy. Thanks, Crow. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy now. I have 3 kids. I have a 3.5-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and a freaking 12-year-old. Man, oh man, life happens fast, dude. It happens real fast. I feel like this area needs a little something. I don't know what though. Maybe some like texture, skin texture. Actually, let me heighten this up a little bit. Lighten. Yeah, that's better. If you enter this already, but where do you see illustration going now that AI is more prominent? Ironically, like whenever it first came out, I was very doom and gloom about it. I thought it was the end of our industry as we knew it, and heavens to Betsy, AI is coming for our heads and stuff. But what I've figured out, and it's actually bringing me quite a bit of like nice solace. People are realizing how hard it is to be an illustrator. You think that would be not correct because, well, now everybody can make an image. Yeah, that's true. Everybody can make an image. That's not what illustration is. The job part of it is extraordinarily difficult, right? And to be completely fair and upfront, if somebody is fine enough with the AI slop that they are given, I probably did not want them as a client to begin with. Because they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know, well, it's like writing. Like, why would I bother to read what nobody bothered to write? In fact, it's going to allow me to charge more money because it's the same thing. There's a saying in like, if you hire like a dentist or a plumber or an electrician or a mechanic, If you want to spend the most amount of money, hire the cheapest option. Because they are going to jank your stuff up. They're going to jank it up, and then you're going to have to go to the real person that knows how to do it in order to fix it, and they're going to charge you more. Because now, instead of starting from scratch and making the thing, now they have to take all the gunk and sift through it and sort through it, and then make a thing that's actually quality based on the garbage that the output gave you. And it's funny because it's like, well, no, AI is, AI is going to get better. It's going to get better. I think AI is going to get worse. It's already not very good. I think it's going to get worse because what we're seeing now, people aren't really too worked up on wanting illustrations. What they're wanting with AI is a way to swindle people's grandmothers on social media. That's what all this is. This is a way for people to commit fraud at a very big scale by impersonating either dead people or, you know what I mean? Like, that's what AI is really for. The art stuff is just kind of, it's the flash in the pan right now. Ooh, cool, look at this picture. But now the people that are using AI are using it for more nefarious reasons. It's not, oh, I'm gonna take all these illustrators' jobs. Number one, what jobs? There's not very many. There's not. Illustration has never been a lucrative career. Ever. In the history of mankind. The only way we got stuff like the Sistine Chapel is that the church fed and housed people. There's no money in it. There's never money in it. That's not why you do it. So now people coming in and doing AI art, quote unquote, and thinking they're going to get rich quick. Well, if you figure out a way to get rich being an illustrator, let me know. It ain't happening that way. So I think people are realizing that. Like, oh, people don't pay a lot for illustration. And illustrations, even if a machine makes it for you, is still extraordinarily hard to do. At a decent level that's worth looking at. So now they're moving on to other things. Whoa, I can swindle some old lady and say that I'm her grandson and I'm caught in a prison and I need $35,000 for bail. Like that's what AI is doing now. Where we're going into a general election cycle here in America. Just wait. Just wait till you see what nonsense AI is going to crap out. That's where I think it's headed. I think artists are so low on the totem pole yet again that we've kind of ridden the wave. We've seen it, it's kind of done its damage, and I think it's going away from illustration. I think people aren't interested in that. They're going to movies now, no special effects and all this. And that's all gunk as well. It's all bad and it looks bad. But I actually think illustrators kind of weathered the storm. I could be wrong. I think we kind of made it. We made it to the other side, you know. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro is a genius, and he was like, yeah, it makes crappy screensavers. Yeah, that's about it is. Keep supporting and wanting to work with. Yes, that's the whole point. The whole point is to, like, I want to read a book that somebody kind of had to struggle through because it's work. That's work, man. My wife has written 2 books, self-published. I helped do the covers and all that stuff, but like, that's incredible to me. Like, she had the wherewithal to write 400 plus page books. That is a testament. That is a dedicated, like, you can hold the thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's unbelievable. That's, oddly enough, that's kind of one of the main reasons I want to do a graphic novel. I don't think it's going to be any good, but I want to be able to hold a thing in my hand and be like, there it is. I made every lick of this. I did the cover. I did the editing. I did the tech. Every part of this. I did that. I did a Krita book, Draw and Paint Better with Krita. And that was very much, they let me take all the pictures and write the synopsis and write all the chapters. And And when that came out, man, that was a big deal because, like, that's my name in print, you know, published by Pact Publishing, available worldwide. You can buy it on Amazon. Like, okay, here's a document that I have existed, and here's what my thing is. You know what I mean? And like, I did that for the art theory side and like teaching people how to paint and being an art instructor. But I kind of want to do it for a storytelling thing too, to be like, okay, here's what I'm bringing to the table to make you think about stuff, you know. And that's the part that excites me more than anything. Is like, okay, can I do this in a way that's engaging and actually like holds its own in this lifetime, you know? It's something that somebody can go through and look at, and it's not a waste of time, and they're excited to read it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the dream. That really is. Like, I get it, you know. Okay, we'll do that one. Let me hit that. And boom. Let me hit that one right there. Yeah. Kind of scar this up a little bit. Kind of a gash. We can also do a little like gash on the nose type thing, right? Because this is where we can add some small detail texture stuff, and it'll really pay off. So if I come over here and like there. So now I'm wondering if this is getting too rendered for what I want to do. And it might be. Might be a little too rendered, I don't know. Down here's not, which is great. No, that's not bad. But yeah, if we zoom all in, you can see the canvas textures and all that stuff. Giving instructions to AI on, weirdly enough, I feel more respect and interest in man-made art because public is deeper. Yeah, that's actually true. You know, it's a thing of, you know, and not even talking about the ethics side of it, to where literally without looking through terabytes of human-made stuff and like collaging it together, they wouldn't even have a business. But I have a deeper appreciation for all kinds of comic books now. Beforehand, I was like, oh, is this a cool story? Oh, the art's pretty good. Oh, yeah, well, no, the story and the characters did this weird thing and all this. But now that I'm like studying and learning what it takes to make a comic book or a graphic novel or whatever you want to call it, holy crap. Like, it is, I'm reading through Making Comics by Scott McCloud right now. And like, that thing is a 500-page beast of, I had no clue. I had zero understanding of how the sausage is made or whatever. Like, it is staggering how much work it is. So now I respect all of it. Like, even if it came out and it wasn't very good and it got bad reviews, the fact that it's out and somebody put their manpower behind that, like, I respect the hustle, tip of the cap, you know, like, great work. Like writing a book. The book comes out and it kind of bombs, or, you know, doesn't get the traction or whatever, or maybe, you know, people didn't like the characters as much or whatever. The fact that it was still made, and you went through the draft, editing, redraft, re-editing, redrafting, re-editing over and over, and the grinding, just the craftsmanship of like pinging and clipping and chipping away at this thing, that's worth celebrating. And I think people are getting more and more, they want more authenticity instead of less. Like, I think people aren't just okay with like AI doing a thing or whatever. Like, they want to know what people have to say. And I think there's a lot of power in that. Yeah, well, and the thing is, whenever people talk about AI, that doesn't actually, it's not really AI yet. It's not intelligent. It's essentially an image version of autocomplete. You know what I mean? Like, the same way your phone can check to see if you spelled something right. Like, it's that, but like there's no intelligence happening. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not, and that's not being a hater. It's just like, that's technically, it's a autocomplete for like, it's not giving you an actual answer if you ask it a question. It's giving you what it thinks an answer is. Not the answer to your question, but like, what is an answer that has the keywords in it? Like, there's no, it's like a search engine. It's not and I don't think that this type of thing is going to like open the doors to like quote unquote real AI. Like, real AI is, God, a millennia away, maybe. Like, we're to think that us as humans are collectively smart enough to make a machine that can learn like humans is hilarious to me. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. We're not smart enough. Like, you know, the thing of like where you have to, in order to teach like grade school, you have to have a master's degree. Like, in order to teach this like rudimentary level stuff, your skill set needs to be like this much higher. How can we make something as intelligent as us if we can't be more intelligent than us? You can't do it. Just logistically, you can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's silly. All right, let me render these teeth. So with, you know, Photoshop coming in and changing it, you know, and even like photo bashing and all that, like, it had an impact for sure. But just like everything else, it kind of went by the wayside a little bit. I mean, yeah, sure, we're using digital tools, and I'm using Photoshop right now to make digital art. And there's other companies that are now making, you know, programs like Rebel and all this other stuff. But I think it's more a means to an end. It's not, you know, hell, oh my God, why can I not think of this artist's name? I am going to beat myself over the head by not remembering their name. They did pretty much every live action movie poster. Blade Runner, Indiana Jones. I literally am looking at a piece they made right down here. I have it, the Empire Strikes Back. What is their name? It's going to drive me crazy. And then I'm going to feel dumb for not getting it. But he's like the most famous poster artist in the world. And he only retired recently. It's a thing with live streaming. Your brain shuts off a little bit, so you can't like recall stuff as quickly. It's a real thing. I don't know why it is, but no, I would say it didn't kill the movie poster business. Yeah, there we go. I need some sort of like texture on the lips, I think. And this can actually kind of cup over there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, traditional painting is very expensive. I mean, for the longest time, for like hundreds of years, that's why artists only use like 4 or 5 pigments, because the other ones were just either not invented yet or outrageously expensive. And you would have to like wait for it to be imported from like India. You know what I mean? Like, no matter where you were in the world. So here we go. Let me take that slightly darker look here. Another thing we can do, I don't know if it's like the right, I think I probably lose the painterly look by rendering too much. Yeah, I mean, it happens. That's kind of why all the brushes I make in my brush packs, I try to keep them fairly textured. So even if I do start to get in this flow that I'm kind of in right now, it's still going to be scratchy enough or, you know, textury enough that it's not going to be perfectly like airbrushed, you know what I mean? But yeah, I know what you mean, because like I definitely fall into it as well. Really, I can do that, and then maybe like that. Get watercolor. Kind of softly bring in this stuff. There we go. Kind of make my own gradient out of it almost. Yeah, exactly. So instead of like tech companies trying to find like robotics or something like they do nowadays, imagine if they're like, "Oh yeah, well we're going to make the best painters in the world cuz we're going to feed them 8 meals a day and we're going to you know, we're going to give them a house so they don't have to ever worry about rent ever again." And like they'll be stress-free and they'll be super alive and healthy. And yeah, I will say I usually paint better when, you know, I've eaten that day. I think there's some merit to that. Like, when I know my family is taken care of, I'm able to, you know, do things a little better. So what I do need to do, actually, let me grab my soft brush, soft round. I need to curve this highlight, kind of. And then kind of get this. There we go. Kind of blur that out a little. There we go. Let me grab pure white and go. There we go. So now I want to see. Yeah, that's looking okay. Let me bring this up. Soften. Soften. Just kind of like soften some of these transitions. Help the form a little bit more. I'm realizing lately that the soft brush is super powerful. I used to shy away from it a lot because I would think that it would make my stuff look too airbrushy. But the real secret is using the soft round allows your painterly strokes to look better, like to look more painterly because they have something to contrast against. Which makes sense, right? Like, you need to give your viewer a variety of edges so they can have something interesting to look at. And that's sort of what this is. That's sort of what the soft round does. Is it lets you sort of play and blur and do that while keeping your more like textured painterly stuff sharper. But also allows you to do form like pretty well. So something like that. Here's that. This one's here. Let me get rid of that a little bit. There we go. See, we're going to kind of just lose these edges here. And I actually think that's going to help the piece look a little more painterly again. Is by losing some of these edges, it makes the other ones quite a bit more apparent. You know, kind of smooth some stuff out a little bit. Let's see if Vibrance, let's crank that up. Cool. What do I want to do? Might need to kind of... I don't actually think the answer is going to be to render more. I think it's going to be to render less. I could probably bring this back into Rebel, because here's where we were in Rebel, right? And see how, like, crazy and dynamic and stuff that is. I actually think that by kind of tempering it, like, sure, it looks really, like it looks pretty cool, like the way the paint's kind of smeared there and stuff like that and all that, but I also think it loses a little something. That's just me personally. Maybe I should bring this back into Rebel, like this, and use some of the Impasto mixer brush stuff and kind of spice this up a little bit. Because, like, I like stuff like this. I think this looks pretty cool. It's not anything, really, but, like, this one, you know what I mean? Like, you can still see the brush marks and stuff, but, like, I just like that it kind of doesn't make any sense. A part of me likes that. So how many orcs am I gonna make? I would like to do a few more. This one might be my last orc portrait. I don't know. I mean, hell, if people keep digging it and liking it and like reposting it and stuff, I might do a lot of these just as good practice, because this allows me to make dynamic, fun portraits that don't have to look like somebody. So I can really play around with shapes and proportions and perspective and dynamic lighting, and like I can play with all that stuff. And it's more forgiving here than it would be doing like a master study, or we're gonna paint this portrait of this person. Then you get people like, well, that doesn't look like the reference. But if there's no reference, you know, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, you know, if they don't have the script and we're just kind of making stuff by the seat of our pants, like, here we go. You know, I think there's something cool about that. I would love to do, let me bring up Bayard Wu's, let's see. So, pound for pound, one of my favorite people on the planet, one of my favorite artists of all time, is Bayard Wu. He is the main illustrator at Blizzard. Literally, it is him. Like, I mean, he has a whole team of people, but like, if you want to talk about an artist at Blizzard, this is the guy. My own Orkfolio, yeah. It's funny, a lot of big time artists kind of got their start. I know Dave Raposa really got the wind under his sails professionally after he did all of his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pieces. He did a portrait of each one of them in kind of a painterly style, oddly enough, and that really took off. But Bayard is an absolute genius, and every time I think about what my goal would be if I wanted to paint orcs, is it's like, this stuff is sick. Super sick. Super good. Ridiculous. These are just the sketches. His actual paintings are absurd. Like, this is a perfect painting. You know, like, it's just a perfect painting. In every conceivable way. You know. And then like, yeah, like, absurd. Just ridiculous, right? He has a whole portfolio of these. Just insanity. It's absurd. And like, kind of his method behind it, you can see as soon as he puts down the sketch, it's like 80% of the way there. And then he just comes in and refines it, right? Very specific style, but like, yeah, and I had this as my background for a long time, just because of how good it is. Everything you need to learn about making an image is in this image. You know what I mean? Like, it's a masterclass. And then seeing how he put it all together, and yeah, just unreal. But every time I think about Orktober, I think about this. I think about Miss Hammer Girl and Orc Girl and all of these paintings from Bayard's portfolio. Yeah, I mean, I have seen some AI, but it's all stuff in the prompt where they rip off like Frank Frazetta. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of the only thing that I've seen. It's all kind of Frazetta knockoff stuff. You know what? I'm going to do this. Let me go ahead. Let me save as. Let me save this as the PNG file. And then let me bring this into file, import image. Okay. Right. So now if we come in here, we can grab ourselves some bristle brushes and just start playing around. Okay. Let's do duplicate layer. Cool. And I'm going to stay on, let me stay in the pigment blending mode, and then I'm going to stay in paint and blend. There's paint and mix, but paint and blend is always pretty good. But let me grab some of this. And this is just kind of what I do with a Rebel. I like using Rebel as sort of the messier painting option. This and Art Rage are kind of my go-tos for that. See, because you can do a lot of really interesting, on paint and blend, you can do some really cool looking stuff. And it gives me that look that I want. That like slightly smeary, but not overwhelming. And then I can paint and mix so it goes on a little harsher, a little drier, right? Do something like this. And just give it way more of a lived-in painting feel. You know. Oh, heck yeah. Dude, that's the best compliment I've ever received. That whole, like, Justin Sweet era Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, like, that's the whole reason I wanted to get into fantasy stuff. I played the hell out of those games. All of those Infinity Engine games, like Icewind Dale, And then Icewind Dale, I went and I read Icewind Dale, the trilogy from Salvatore, and, you know, off to the races. So yeah, man, oh, that would be so cool to work with like Obsidian or, you know, a company to be able to make that type of RPG art. Oh my god. Like, I do have it on my bucket list that I would like to work on a high profile, massively multiplayer role-playing game. Like a Guild Wars or a World of Warcraft or EverQuest or like New School RuneScape or really anything like that, you know, like, God, I think that would be an absolute blast. And then knowing that, like, my art would be the thing that players would see, like, during loading screens or during a cutscene or whatever, it's like, oh my gosh. We're gonna bring in some of that warmer color here. See, this way, I can do some nice painterly strokes. It still works okay. So maybe this is how I should do texture in all of my paintings. Just bring them into a painting software like this and do the messy brushstroke stuff. Because it's just fun. As long as your values are right, you can paint whatever you want, and it's gonna work, you know. Works every time. Oh yeah, and then we can keep that the nose ring pretty pretty kind of self-contained there. And then dabble in some of these darker. Paint and blend. Smooth that out a little bit. Okay. I feel like the nose is getting a little away from me. So I will say, on programs like this, like Rebel, it's harder for me to render because the brushes are a little more spontaneous. So it's harder to get your exact edges. But that does make for a more painterly look, because very rarely in painting do you get perfectly exact edges. You know, it's not really the MO of traditional painting. Let me come back here. Let me change to flat bristle. Here we go. Yeah, the Rebel brush engine is just genius. I've told them that many a time. I'm like, I don't know how you guys did this, man, but like, big ups to you for figuring this out. Because, like, man, it's so much fun. Here, I could bring this more down, meet up here like this. There we go. if we're about done with this one. See, that's the only thing with this is like, can never quite figure out the right balance of stuff. Let me come in, smear some of this away. And notice I'm not even using the blender brush. I'm just using the paint and blend. That way I can sort of like get rid of some of these edges. Just really lose them in. See, it's funny, I've spent way longer on this one than I did on the first one. And it's funny, because I can almost bet you this one will not get the same traction as the other one. I don't know why. I think this one's better painted. I think it's more interesting to look at. It checks all the boxes. But that might be why it doesn't do as well. It's a little too obvious. People don't have to work as hard for it. Because that's what I'm starting to figure out is like if the audience works for their meal, they like it better. So really, if I came in and like did this, and then did like let's do kind of glaze that in there. And then kind of sort of like repeating the motif of this and this down here to kind of structure the, you know, structure the painting almost diagonal, and then the lights coming down diagonal. So I wonder if boom, boom, color dodge. That might be too much. But if I do that, basically just bringing in some of those heavy highlight hits. There we go. Something like that, right? Yeah. Then we can file. Save as. Save that. We'll bring this into Photoshop after it saves. File open. Cool. So now, as we can see, this is what we had before. A little smoother, a little rendered. And this is what we have after, a little more chaotic, kind of stipply brush strokes. Also a little softer around there. So that's good, right? That's better. Then what do we want to do? Browns. We have crazy purples. We got my gradient maps. Let's see what Peter Moorbacher's look like. That's pretty cool. Mine are a little easier. Like, mine are a little more predictable. They're more kind of like classically trained, I guess. Quite what look I want. Zug zug. Oh, see, this is straight up Warcraft colors right here. Your purple and your yellow green. Something like that. Because what I'm thinking is like do that. Black. And then if we want to introduce this with a soft round brush, like over here. And kind of like set up. You know, and it's gonna look pretty intense, but then I'll temper it down a little bit. Really, anything that's kind of gonna face over there in that direction. Might add to some believability, you know. Yeah, it's already working a little bit. Keep that there. And also there. Yeah, I mean, it makes this look more interesting, in my opinion. Maybe like half it a little bit right here. Keep it tempered. This gives it a little bit more personality, I think. And then maybe, yeah, keeping this more of a purple. Yeah. Something like that's cool. Maybe purple there. Purple around here. That's giving it a little bit more like dimension, I think. Yeah. There we go. And see, it's just those little bits of purple kind of play against the nice bright green. Then you have the nice neutral brown to kind of tie everything together, I guess. That's fine. I'm trying to decide, do I want to render the nose and these wrinkles and stuff? And like right around this eye a little more? Or do I just want to keep it how it is? Because this is one of those very, you know, John Singer Sargent things to where the portrait, if you look at it from back here, everything's there. Everything you need is there, and it works. And then whenever you zoom in, you're like, oh god, it's just a mess. But that's the point. Like, that's what makes it kind of exciting, you know? Oh yeah. I think that's it. Oh, no, it's not. I know what I need to add. To really sell it. To really sell it. Let's get ourselves a white canvas stamp set of brushes. Let's do this. Come up here. Oh. Nope. There we go. Then we'll pick a color from the canvas. Some more. Get canvas stamp 2. Do the darker colors. Darken that up a little bit. Let's do canvas pattern. go. And then we will lower the opacity to about a 63. Because that way, you can kind of see the thread of these canvases. Right? Plus the Rebel canvas. It almost adds like a nice noise layer to it. But the noise doesn't break the illusion. And you'll notice I did not do canvas texture around the bright lights. Around the brighter areas. I kept it only kind of in the shadow to give your eyes something to look at whenever you go in there. So yeah. I think that might be it. That might be the one for Orktober number 2. I like that little green that accidentally got in there. I don't know how that happened, but we'll keep it. Yeah, I think that's a decent little something, you know. But yeah, what I always like to do lately: select all, edit. Copy, merge, edit, paste. Let's see what Photoshop has to say. Image, auto tone. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think it saw what I was trying to do with the purples. And then it like really wanted to do it, you know? Auto contrast? Okay, yeah, that's correct. Auto color. Huh. So that's weird. The auto color wanted to keep it this same type of color, but the auto tone is the thing that brought in all those blues, kind of the cooler colors. Huh. Yeah. So I actually don't know which one I like better. I mean, I think I like the warmer version, like here, better, just because I'm used to it and I've been making all my decisions based on it, you know, while I'm painting. But I do think there's something interesting about that. I just can't tell if that washes it out or not. You know? I think it does a little bit. But what's cool is you can fade the auto tone. So if we wanted to add a little bit of something, because here's a 0. Maybe a little bit, maybe? Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. And auto contrast is good. And then yeah, let's see. Auto color. Yeah, it like washed it out. It like flattened it out. Huh. That's weird. I've never seen the auto color do that before. Usually it goes the other way. It makes it way too like vibrant and, you know, fruit salad-y. Yeah. Yeah, I do think the warmer color works better. It just makes the highlight hit way more like profound, I guess is the right word. Yeah. Then what I can do that. Oh, I know what I can do. Yeah, let me do this. Boom. Gradient. Do that one. Radial. And then let me reverse it. There we go. That way we have a little bit of that nice cool that's here, but then we keep all of the warm, you know, in there. It's very subtle, but it just helps it pop a little bit more, you know? So we got that. And then, against my better judgment, I might come in and render a little more around the focal point, but just the focal point, nowhere else. Just really kind of come in here and finish this. So let's just get a hard round brush, our old standby. That. See, and we can like sharpen this. Right. And my goal here, whenever I go into rendering mode, my real goal is to make sure there's nothing that kind of sticks out more than anything else, right? So like, if I'm staring at an area, like right now, I could be staring at, here we go. I could be staring at like this highlight right here in the eye. What I do is I look at my peripheral vision from that focal point, and I'm like, okay, does anything catch my eye in a bad way? And I think something over here, let me smooth this out a little bit. Kind of get these things together, more of a mash. There we go. Then that gives us this. That brings us here. That works pretty good, but I need to lighten it. So that's usually a good way to go, is like, if my eye catches it and I don't want it to while I'm looking at my focal point, I can get rid of it. There's actually, let's do that. Okay. Also, actually this works, the nose works okay. Let me get this curve a little bit more under control though. Something like that. But yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to get too bogged down in the renderer, because, and actually I can, because that's going to kind of get rid of that nice painterly look, as if we go in and just kind of airbrush everything out of it, you know what I mean? And I like the idea of sort of like the freckle thing, like the orc freckles. I'm gonna do that. Come up over here. It's funny, being this zoomed in, it makes him look like the Incredible Hulk with a nose ring. It's funny. I didn't even think about it, but sure does. I like that. The staring is pretty good. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. I think what I need to do is do a little bit of the furrow brow lines. Now it really starting to look like the Incredible Hulk. Like, oh my gosh. That's funny. It's all in the, those lines, man. Those furrow brow lines are the thing, you know? Kind of just get some of that out. Get some of that out. The mosh pit Hulk. He is ready. He is ready. He is at a One Direction concert ready to take some names. Can you imagine someone going to like BTS looking to mosh pit like crazy? It's like, sir, I think you're at the wrong show. Meshuggah is over that way. Mastodon played yesterday. You're just here on the wrong day. He's like, I'm just looking to smash, bro. We're going for it. Open the pit, and they're like, sir, please, we don't know what that means. So come on, man. I'm going to kind of soften this transition a little bit. And I know I could be using my soft round brush, but that's fine. Another, like, this is a really dumb technique, but it works. And I don't know why it works, it just does. And it's worked back whenever I was in art school, it works with traditional media, it works with digital. If you're going around and like rendering, doing little kind of doodads and all that stuff, do it in a circular motion, like this. And it ends up looking okay, because you never have any super harsh edges. And it gives you more control. It's a good little, like, almost like a life hack. All right. Need to. I think his nose actually could be like this. Yeah, there you go. Get a little bit more personality on the nose. And then, and it's funny now, kind of looking at it, I keep going back and forth between like Incredible Hulk, but it also reminds me of the ape designs in Planet of the Apes. It's because of these sideburns right here. In. So I think we're about done, guys. I think this one's about a wrap. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to get as much traction as the first one. I personally think this is a better painting than the first one. But for whatever reason, the stuff I like the look of, and I think is a better painting, never takes off on social media. I'm just not wired for social media, I guess. Like the way I work or whatever, which is fine. I mean, I still get jobs, you know. I still get published and all that, but just I never quite cracked that code of being a big like Instagram artist or Twitter artist or whatever. Like, I have no advice on any of that stuff because I'm just not I'm not good at it. And I always know when I'm pretty much done with a painting if I start going over spots I've already gone over for like no good reason, you know? Like here, there was a reason. It was like, okay, I'm going to render a little more. I'm going to bring in a little bit more clarity. I'm going to do all that. But now it's like, I'm just kind of going over things over and over. And that doesn't really do much of anything for anyone. Alright. Here we go. I say that. There we go. Cool. All right. Oh, no, I didn't actually stream the first one. I did the first one yesterday off stream. I did record it for the YouTube channel, though. So that whole process from like rough sketch all the way to final, I did record for the channel. Here, I'm going to render out that tooth a little bit. I'm going to come and render out this one as well. Yeah, I can show the first one, though. The first one I just posted up yesterday. It's funny, I was planning on not doing a lot of these, but I mean, if this one also picks up and takes off, I might do a whole month of them. Who knows? I might do a more Warhammer-based one. Get that dark a little bit more. There we go. A little darker. Get that ambient occlusion happening. Cool. All right. Yeah. Now I'm just going over parts over and over again. So this one is done. Go and save. So the first one, the one from yesterday, was here. And see, it was, I mean, it was fun, you know, but like, I mean, look how loosey-goosey the other stuff is, you know what I mean? This one's at a much higher level of finish, but it's also more subtle. This one's kind of hit you over the head, you know? This one's a little more dramatic, a little more in the shadows, you know? But what I am happy with, I will say this, what I am happy with, these orcs look different. And I know it's because of the tusk and all that stuff, but that was my goal, is I don't want to do the same kind of thing over and over, you know? I don't want, you know, I've never been a fan of like same face syndrome or whatever. So the fact that these two characters look distinctly different is exciting. It also doesn't hurt that it's a different color palette and, you know, all that stuff. But yeah. I feel like I could do something down here, maybe. Or maybe get rid of this. Or bring back in some definition here. That's actually what I might do. I might bring back a little more definition here. I was thinking of doing the, what is it? Not the big pauldron look, but like the, like this type of thing. You know? Because that's why I had that shoulder here. It's basically his neck is just huge. Yeah, kind of like this generic-y one right there. Maybe I can infer that real quick with... Let's do a sergeant brush. And if we want to introduce a little bit of red, bring that in. Don't make it too apparent though, but then we can bring in some like damage or something. Kind of get rid of the harshness. There we go. Punk orc, yeah. Yeah, the smash and crush. Like this sort of old school WWF. There we go. So yeah, something right there. And I know that was there, so let me introduce that on the other ones too. See, if you have something here's like a genuine professional artist pro tip. If you have something on your canvas that's a mistake and you kind of don't want to get rid of it, it's totally fine. Once again, like, it's your painting, all that stuff. But like that green thing right here was a mistake, and I should have fixed it. But instead of fixing it, I added that same mistake to these other tusks, or the teeth. So now it doesn't look like a mistake. It looks like I did it on purpose. That's the whole idea of like the Bob Ross happy accidents. He was a master at doing that. He made a whole career out of it. If he made a mistake, he's like, well, that kind of looks like this. And then he just made it whatever that is. You know what I mean? Like, dude's a genius. That tooth a little. Yeah, there we go. And it's nice because it gives us a little bit of highlight. So if we want to grab maybe that bright, and then let's do that math. So if the highlight is hitting on the nose and the eyebrow up here, coming down, same thing here. There's a cast shadow on this nose that's causing fix this real quick. That was bugging me. I just, for whatever reason, I can't quite get the... Alright, that's fine. But the cast shadow from that nostril, because if the light's coming this way, that nostril is going to block that, right? So let's add a super high highlight. Right there. Right there. Right there. Right? It just kind of helps tie it all together, you know? There we go. All right. See, this is the type of thing I can just poke around on a painting like this for 40 or 50 hours and just keep doing the stuff over and over. So yeah, that's how, you know, with that type of lighting, if you have your specular highlight somewhere, you want to make sure that anything that would grab that light also has the specular highlight. Maybe not as intense as here, because you can see how bright all of this is, right? But we still are going to add that specular highlight to all of the things that will grab the light, even if it's a darker highlight, which is a weird thing, but like this light right here on this eye is technically in the shadow, so it's not going to be as bright as that one is. You know what I mean? So like we always do, let's do this, edit, fill, black, check our values. Yeah, it ran a little dark, but I think that's okay because we wanted to make sure that our light did its thing, you know? And like you can see how literally all of this is kind of a lost edge now. And the only thing that's separating it is not value, it's actually color, right? Which is also a technique I need to start doing more of. I need to start embracing the idea of color contrast as opposed to value contrast, because I think there's a lot to learn there. I think there's a whole lot that we can do to make our art look better and more vibrant by not necessarily relying solely on value contrast, but on like color contrast as well. That'll really help us embrace the color theory side of things. But yeah, I mean, values look okay. Colors, yeah, colors work. There's enough of the red next to the green, you know. If we really wanted to make this pop, we would make this more of like a cyan color, kind of a blue-green instead of a yellow-green. Because cyan is the actual complementary color of red. But yeah, it's fine. That's fine. That's probably why introducing some of the cools worked pretty well too. Is because then you get that balance, right? So yeah, I think that's it. Let me open up my signature. Boom. Let me open up. Where's Boom. Cool. All right, guys. And with that, I will get this put up all across social media and stuff. But that, I'll save. Be sure I save it. Good Lord. But yeah, that is Orktober number 2 right there. What's up, Brent? So that's the one. Well, that's the 2, I guess. But yeah, ton of fun. Oh my gosh. These are great because I don't have to think about them too much. Will you be making another color video? Yes. So Simplifying Color Theory Volume 2 is actually the next one that's going to come out. It has, like, I was pretty okay with color theory whenever I made Simplifying Color Theory Part 1. The amount that I've learned from Part 1 to Part 2 that I'm making right now is staggering. It's ridiculous. It's funny, you can see it in the paintings. Like, I have a way more confident way of approaching color contrast and harmonies and stuff like that. And I go over how, and it's really easy, but I go over how in the Simplifying Color Theory Part 2. So Part 1 was more like based on hue, saturation, value, kind of the 3 main parts that make up a color. This is going to be more the structure of why colors work. Like, if people talk about, you know, analogous colors versus split complementary versus, you know, kind of those color recipes, why do they work? When should you use them? And then also, like, there's a few things that like ticked over in my brain that now I'm not really scared of color anymore. Not to say my use of color is like masterful or something. Like, it's going to take a lifetime to get all the practice and experience in to get better and better and better at it. But I now know that I can start with 2 main colors and they're always going to look right next to each other. It's just, what vibe do I want? Now it's less about what colors work well together. I kind of know that. Now it's like, what mood do I want to give this thing? And then how do I want to use the color theory of how people think about color in that? Because if your values are good and you have a good understanding of the color wheel, you can't make a bad decision. It's just, what is the best decision? And that's the hard part. Like, the hard part's like, okay, I know exactly, like, I can literally recite colors that are opposite from each, like the complementary colors. I memorize all of them. You know what I mean? Like, if I see what color that is, I know what the complement is without too much hassle. Because I kind of train my brain to notice a pattern. And I kind of talk about that pattern in the next, you know, lesson. But it took a lot of weight off. Like, I'm not scared of color anymore. I'm not like worried about it. Now things are more in the storytelling side of things, which actually makes it harder. Because I know what could look good, and I know what does look good, but what looks the best? And that's super difficult. Will it still be value does the work, color gets the credit? Kind of. So I still believe that. If your values work, whatever color you want, you can put on there. But there's this idea of something called chroma. And people confuse chroma and saturation a lot. And they get it mixed up all the time. They'll use one interchanged for the other, and that's not correct. Once I had the aha moment, and I was like, oh, that's the difference. It made a lot of the color wheel make sense. And now I can read, like, the Munsell color theory. I used to be super confused by that thing, but now I can sight read it. You know, I'm like, oh, I know what color that is. That's HB204, blah, blah, blah. Like, it makes sense. Like, weirdly. It's almost like going into the Matrix, almost. Now, the other part of the lesson thing is how useful is it? It's fine to know all that theory, but how do you use it? And that's why I said, like, the storytelling side of it, that's the meat of it, I want to say. So there was a lot of tips and tricks. There's a very, very, very easy way to learn your complementary colors. It is kind of ridiculous how easy it is. I felt like an idiot once I learned it. I was like, oh, well, now that's checked off the box, you know? So I'm excited to get that into people's hands, because once people make that realization, and the thing is, you may have already made the realization, but not realized you made it. I know that's silly, but it's almost too obvious. And it comes down to the relationship of complementary colors. Like, why do they work? Why do they not work? People say complementary, but they clash. Why is that? There's a reason, and there's a physics reason. And yeah, it changed my perception. I was like, oh, I had the definition wrong. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it felt. So yeah, I'm excited to get that into people's hands. I see the whole course being about 6 hours, 7 hours maybe. I already have 2 lessons recorded, and they're each about an hour and a half. I think I might do 1 or 2 more lessons, maybe an hour and a half a piece. So yeah, about 6-7 hours. We'll see. I'm trying to decide if I want to do a real-time demonstration, because really it's a lot of lecture stuff. And I'll use real-time demonstration on like gradient maps. I already did a little bit, but we can look at it that way because it's fast. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to really bring it home and like put all those pieces together to make it a coherent thing. But I think I have it figured out. I'm pretty sure. I just need to go in and record it, make some slides, make some geometric shapes to like showcase this stuff. So yeah, I'm excited on how far it's come. But like, yeah, my understanding of color since doing it has been way different. Way, way different. But yeah, just always remember, you know, value does do the work and color gets all the credit. But now I realized there's a reason why color gets the credit. It used to be a nagging point, like, grr, I wish people would see how important value is, which is true. I still think that. But color, there's some gravity to that stuff, man. So yeah, that is my time for tonight. It was an absolute pleasure. Super fun. Orktober is great, man. Yeah, I don't know what my next one will be. I would like to do kind of like a Bayard Wu study sort of thing. Maybe something in the style of Bayard Wu. We'll see. I do think it'd be funny to do kind of a Warhammer Orc. You know, maybe an Warhammer Fantasy instead of Warhammer 40,000, where they're like the soccer hooligan. Maybe I could do like the really gritty, like, because these other ones have been pretty good, but they haven't been like scare the children gritty. You know what I mean? Oh, of course, I could do Lord of the Rings orcs. All the stuff on Rings of Power. I still need to watch season 2, but I'm catching up through season 1 again. I watched it when it came out, and now I'm going and re-watching all of it. So maybe I could do another one of those, because I did a few of those studies 2 years ago, I think, and those turned out pretty good. But maybe I can revisit that or something. So who knows? I do think this upcoming Wednesday, trying to think if I want to do an art stream or a game stream. We haven't done a game stream in about a month and a half. So that might be fun. Yeah, Warhammer's great. I love it. I love studying it. I wish I would work on it again, but the newer stuff that I did is up on the portfolio page, which is nice. It's up on my website for Imperium Maledictum. So, that stuff I was able to actually show now, which is cool. 7:10 in the morning. Oh my goodness. Early bird. Early bird, my friend. Thank you so much, Colin. But yeah, that's my time, guys. It's almost 1:30 in the morning here. So I'm going to get off here, answer some emails, post all this funny orc stuff on social media and see how well that one does. See if we can make this a pattern, a habit. But yeah, super cool. Thanks for hanging out, especially for Orktober. Cool. Yes. But we'll see you again real soon, whether it's art or games, or we'll figure out something to do on Wednesday. But until then, go make cool art. If you need tutorials, if you need lessons and stuff, go check out www.wesgardner.art. It has all my brushes, it has all my tutorials, the online courses, my gradient maps that we were using a little bit earlier. There's going to be more stuff on the store. New 2025 brush packs out. The works, man. Everything I have, my portfolio, it's all there. So go check that out if you haven't already. If you're watching the archives on Twitch or YouTube, thank you so much. And we will catch you all next time. Peace.